Hey guys, Bill coming back at you again with another video. Today we're going to be transplanting some seedlings, the Granddaddy Purple Autos that we started. We just put them into cups there 2 weeks ago. So we'll be transplanting some of them, getting their tent set up. And we'll also take a quick look here at the Island Sweet Skunks, 8 weeks into flower, and see how they're making out and kind of guesstimate as to when they're going to be done. Alright guys, so first off, let's check out those seedlings and get that tent set up. Alright guys, so here we have the 2.5 by 5 tent. And as you can see, we have hanging two FCE 1500s. Now we've used these a couple of times and they've worked fantastic for this size space. So here we have the Granddaddy Purple Auto seedlings. Now they've grown quite a bit since last week. I got a picture here of last week. I just cut out from last week's video, and this is what they look like today. So not bad at all. We do have this little one here that's quite a bit behind the rest, but I really want 8 plants for this tent, so we're gonna use it. Normally I might have culled it, but we're gonna keep it just for the sake of filling out this tent properly. We have the 2 big ones here in the back. These are right around 2 weeks, and these ones probably about 1.5 weeks, and then this one like just a touch over a week. We do have this one here. It does have some spotting, which I'm not sure exactly what that is. There's a little tiny bit on this one as well. Not really sure, but I'm almost positive it'll grow out of that. So what we're gonna do with these, we're gonna do something a little bit different. As you can see here, we have the these are drip trays, and if you can see right along there, they're all connected by this tubing here, which goes into a condenser pump, which then gets emptied into this 5-gallon bucket. Now this 5-gallon bucket, this is the Mars Hydro drip system, which we're going to be using with this grow. And here is the drip emitters here, all hooked up, ready to go. We have 8 of them, 1 for each of the drip trays. So what we're going to do, there's a couple different things actually. I usually grow in 5-gallon fabric pots. That's my preferred pot for autos or photos. Anything inside typically goes into a 5-gallon pot, unless I'm experimenting with something different. This grow, we're going to be experimenting with something different. Ta-da! Aren't they pretty? I have a bunch of these 1-gallon flower pots, and I'm curious to see what kind of yield we can get with 1 gallon. So that's what we're going to do. When I dropped these seeds, I really didn't have a lot of space to put them. And eventually I will probably even have to move them out of this tent once I get my 5x5 ready. And then I'll probably move these into there using the same system. But I do need this tent for something that I have coming up. So what we're going to do is we're going to transplant into these 1-gallon pots. The 1-gallon pots will each have their own base, drainage base, and they will each get their own drip emitter. And we're going to automate this grow. We're probably going to be feeding them starting off. We'll probably start feeding them maybe once to twice a day. Eventually we'll increase that to 3 to 4 times a day once they're big enough. Now you may think, well, you're going to overwater them. Well, in a small pot, it's going to use up, if you water that and feed it, it's going to use that up fairly quickly. That's the downside of a small pot, is you have to water it more frequently. So that's what we're going to do with the drip system. And one other thing that's going to be a little bit different, normally the runoff you would just discard it, but I've run 3 times with the AirCube ebb and flow grow system in the 5x5, which we're still using right now. And with that system, it has a reservoir. It fills up the pots 5-6 times a day, whatever you have it set to, and then it empties right back into the reservoir. And it just continues that cycle. And then once a week or once every couple of weeks, you change it out for a fresh batch of a nutrient solution. Honestly, I only do that like maybe once per grow, maybe twice per grow at the most. I just continue to top it up with fresh nutrients and pH it and check the pH, check the EC, and just let it run. And it's been working fine that way. Absolutely fine. So my thoughts with this is I'm going to, instead of discarding the runoff, that's what this pump is for, and we're going to pump it right back into the reservoir, and we're going to recycle those nutrients. Now, eventually over time, the plant's going to take what it needs out of those nutrients and leave what's left. So eventually they're going to build up the nutrients that it hasn't used. Those are going to become concentrated. So we will have to change out the nutrient solution in here. It's only a 5-gallon bucket, holds about 4 gallons of water, so we'll probably end up doing that once a week. The reservoir for the ebb and flow system is 25 gallons or something like that, so that can hold quite a bit more, and it takes a lot longer to cause imbalances in the nutrients in that one. So anyway, I think it's going to be interesting to watch to see if we can run these the same as we are the AirCube ebb and flow grow system. I hope I explained that properly. I'm a little tongue-tied today, but anyway, follow along and you'll get the gist of it, and we'll see how they do in the 1-gallon pots. What we're going to do today is we're going to transplant some of these. I'm thinking right now it's probably only going to be the 2 bigger ones, and we'll transplant those into their 1-gallon pots and get them situated. And then over the course of the week here, I will probably in a couple of days, maybe on the weekend, I'll transplant probably all of these, maybe give that one an extra day. This one, we'll see how that one goes, but that one, it might be next week's video before that one gets transplanted, because it's still pretty tiny. What we'll do is I'll set you up on the tripod, I'll get a couple of pots out, and we'll transplant at least these 2 and see how that goes. All right, so we have a couple of pots here. I have this one ready for a clone, but I'll show you what I'm doing here for prep. I got my ProMix HP here. So what we're going to do is we'll put a cup of that in there, and we'll kind of spread it a little bit there. There's not a lot of room in these pots compared to the solo cup, really. I guess it's probably about 3 times the volume. But what we're going to do is we're going to set that solo cup in there, and then we're going to take another solo cup of ProMix, and we're going to fill this in right around the sides. Actually, I want a little bit more in the bottom there just to bring it up just a hair. There we go. And then we'll continue around the outside here. Okay. We got it pretty centered there. Now we're just going to tap this down just a little bit. We don't want to over compress it. We just want to compress it just enough to hold the shape. And we'll take that cup, we'll just kind of push that up against the sides a little bit, and then remove it. And there we go. We have the hole that's going to be the same size as the clone's roots. All right, so I'm going to go grab the clones that we're going to transplant, and we'll go ahead and get them in there. Okay, so hopefully the roots are, now I don't see any roots on the bottom, but I'm assuming that the rest is going to be full of roots, and hopefully it is. We don't want to disturb these roots any more than we have to, so we're just going to gently, very gently, just go around the cup, give it a little squeeze on all the sides, give it a little squeeze up on the bottom there a little bit, and then we're going to stick our fingers right around the base of this plant. We don't want to disturb that plant. All right, so then we'll tip it over. Now we don't want to pull it out, we want it to drop out. So again, we'll just go around, just slightly squeeze a little bit. There, she just released. There we go, perfect. Okay, so we got that nice root ball there. We'll go ahead, we'll stick it in this one. So that fit perfectly right down in there. Now what we're going to do is just top up just a little bit on the top. That is going to settle once it gets wet. This is damp right now, but it will still settle a little bit. Probably not too much because we're using the dripper, so it's not going to be an aggressive watering. So hopefully it stays nice and loomy and loose, and that's just what we want. So we'll go ahead, we're going to do the same thing here with this one. This one's got a little bit of a lean to it. We can fix that once we get this in here. So we'll go ahead, do the same thing here. Slight squeeze. Not too much, because that could just completely break that root ball right up. Little squeeze on the bottom there. Fingers right around the seedling, and this one dropped right out. Okay, pretty good amount of roots there. Pretty happy with that. For 2 weeks, we drop it right in that hole. Perfect. And we got some spare soil there. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to try to lift this up a little bit. We want to straighten it up a little bit. So we're going to dump some Pro-Mix on that side first. We're just going to kind of build it up a little bit. I don't know, it's a pretty strong little stem, so we may leave it like that because we're probably going to end up bending it anyway, so I guess we'll just bend in that direction. Again, we're just going to tap it down just a little bit, not enough to compress the soil or soilless media, and that's it. Now, these had a pretty good amount of roots on them, so I'm thinking I may go ahead and I may try to transplant those other ones right now, or I'm going to try one and see how it goes anyway. If it has enough roots to keep that root ball together, then it'll be no problem. If it doesn't, then the soil will just collapse and it'll just be a mess. So I may try to do at least a few more of the bigger of the other ones and see if we can get them in there. Either way, we're going to come back in 2 seconds and we're going to see how they look in the tent. All right, guys, so we got her all done, and guess what? I was able to transplant all of them without incident. This one was a little sketchy. The roots weren't completely full in the cup yet, but still made it work without disturbing the roots that were there. So everything should be fine. I've got the drippers set up there, which I'll probably have to adjust them a little bit. I don't really want that touching the leaf. And I'll have to adjust the flow a little bit and set the timer up. But for the first few days, they'll only be watered probably once a day, so I can just probably do that manually until I get a timer set up for it this weekend, get everything adjusted properly. But everything seems to be okay right now. I've already watered them with the system. You can see a little bit of water coming out of each one. I think probably, I have them just setting just to drip, just a little bit. And I'm thinking probably 2 to 3 minutes of that is going to be enough to saturate the soil and then get some runoff out the bottoms. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how this turns out. Something a little different. See what we can get out of these 1-gallon pots. And yeah, we'll see how she goes. All right, so let's just quickly check in on the Island Sweet Skunks. Not a whole lot different going on, but let's check them out. Alright, so here we have in the Mars Hydro 4x4. We're growing this one under the Mars Hydro FC4800 Evo. And also using the smaller ad lights. And you can see the deep red on there right now. This Island Sweet Skunk, the organic one, she's doing really good. I think she's actually a little further along than the one in the hydroponic. This is being grown with organic Gaia Green nutrients. And she's already starting to fade just a little bit. I don't know if the camera can pick up that, but she's starting to get her fade on. And I really like this one. This one is, as you can see, we got some decent sized colas here. And the leaf to bud ratio is really good on this. This is going to be an easy one to trim. The one in the organics we'll see here in a minute. There's a lot of leaves on that one. But this one's doing really good. I did do something a little different there the other day. We had pretty much all these tops had these foxtails, which I kind of knew was going to happen because the mother plant was full of them as well. And genetically, it's just, I knew the plant was going to do it. It's also sativa, and they are more prone to it. But this one here, let's go back a couple days ago, and we'll see what I did to this. So this is what it looks like today, and I do think that it actually did kind of help. It did seem to bulk out just a little bit, perhaps more than like this one here and these ones over here. You can see the little tufts, the little white tufts there on the top. I actually see a little difference in this, so I did go ahead on this side and pinched off the tops of all these as well and left the ones back here just to see in the end the difference between them, if it does really make much of a difference. Now I do think this one is getting a lot closer to being done. Definitely a lot of trichomes there, and when I checked, there was quite a few cloudy trichomes. Still just a little bit of clear left on them, but I think within the next week, maybe 2 at the most, I think she'll be ready to come down. So pretty happy to get this one down so I can get something else started. But really not a whole lot to talk about with these compared to last week. They're pretty close to the same, just bulking up just a little bit. Let's go check out the one in the Aircube Ebb and Flow grow system. So here we go in the Mars Hydro 5x5. Now this one's being grown under the Mars Hydro FC6500 Evo, along with the bigger Mars Hydro Ad lights. Again, you can see the deep red right there. This Island Sweet Skunk is being grown in the Aircube Ebb and Flow grow system, and the same with the other one. There's really not much difference this week compared to what it was last week. She's still looking fantastic. As I mentioned though, lots of leaves here. Compared to the other one, this has a ton of leaves, so it's going to be a little harder to trim, but really good size chunky colas. Someone commented last week that the only time they get colas like this is outdoors, which I agree. These are pretty chunky for indoors. Even like ones down here like this, way below the canopy level, and it's still a really good sized bud. And we got still a little bit of foxtail going on over the entire plant, but not too bad. Now we just happened to come in at the right time. We just started up a cycle here. And you can see this this bucket here is now full, and that water is traveling through those hoses and filling up that pot. Now after half an hour, that'll drain right back out and go right back into the reservoir. Now that's where I got the idea for the setup on those autos, is I'm kind of running them pretty much the same way as this system runs, which as you can see, it works really well. So should be interesting to see how everything turns out. This one I think probably has another 3 weeks, the same as the mother plant. It went 11 weeks, and I don't know if I mentioned it, but they're 8 weeks right now, and still plenty of white pistils. And yeah, I think this one probably I think it's going to go the full 11 weeks. Alright guys, so that's it for this one. Got a new tent set up. I'm pretty excited to see how that's going to go, see if that drip system with the return to the reservoir is going to do a good job at growing them or not. So we're going to find out. Also using the little 1 gallon pots is something I've never done before, so we'll see how that goes as well. The Island Sweet Skunks kind of stuck there in limbo with the big one here. The other one, I think another week, 2 at the latest. That one will be done, so a little bit sooner than the hydroponic one. So be sure to come back, check that out. Big shout out to Mars Hydro. Pretty much all I use, whether it's lights, exhaust fans, oscillating fans, drip systems like I'm using with the autos there, you name it, they got it. Feel free to check them out. I have links down in the description, and if you use my code BWARD, you'll save a little bit at checkout, and it also helps the channel. Alright, I really appreciate you guys watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave a comment down below, and we'll see you on the next one. Happy growing.